Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to B versus Wham. Here we are on Boulder Bay in this ranked ladder game, and we do have a Chinese mirror at our hands. To the left, it is going to be B playing as the orange, and on the right side, it is Wham with the Chinese in yellow. Now, compared to the original version of the Boulder Bay map that we have seen for quite a while in the early versions of the game, this is a slightly altered Boulder Bay. One of the things that you may have noticed is that the land portion is much larger, so there is way less water on this map than what it used to look like back in the Season 1 or even pre-Season 1 settings of this map. And obviously that's going to promote more land engagements. Having said that, this is still a map which prioritizes water very heavily, and you should expect players to both expand towards the water, like we see both players do. Lovely dock spot over here for Wham. He's going to have 1-2 droplets of deep fish right next to this dock. Especially this one is pretty outstanding. But also, he's got a lot of shorefish nearby, so that's going to be a decent benefit. Could even consider moving 1 or 2 extra whales in here if he needs to, just to really leverage all this shorefish that's available. But even if it doesn't, let's say that he gets pushed on the water, he gets pushed away from this deep fish, there is this very nice safe pocket in which he can fish, even though he's kind of pushed back all the way to his dock. On the other side, this is just an average-looking dock for B. He's got 1 deep fish right next to it, 1 droplet of shorefish, but definitely not as astonishing as what Wham has built. I'm actually going to switch to the villager count because that's one of the things that people always request. I keep forgetting it, but people do request to see the villager distribution at the beginning, so I'll try my best to accommodate that. Now, you see, there is a bit of a discrepancy in the build orders. B had a lumber camp for quite a while. He opened with that, and he didn't even touch any of his straggler trees. On the other side, Wham pretty much depleted all the stragglers and just now moved towards the lumber camp. Now, what does this mean when it comes to efficiency? Basically, nothing from what I can tell, at least on the water. You see 3 fishing ships out there for both players, although B is able to afford a 4th one, whereas Wham isn't. You see Wham is about half a fishing ship behind right now. Both players are playing on 1 scouts. Villager counts are identical, or at least they are supposed to be. Somehow we have 8 plus 8 versus 7 plus 7, which is a little awkward to me. 10 vills on this screen, 11, 15. I'm losing track of all these villagers. Anyways, seems like the build that B went for is a little bit more robust. It allowed a little bit more of a sustainability when it comes to producing fishing ships. You see he's got 5 right now. On the other side, Wham is just now popping out, or he's trying to pop out the 5th one. His house was a little delayed, apparently, because that fishing ship was blocked for population reasons for a while. But you see, this is what I was referring to. Building that lumber camp early seems to have boosted B's eco to a position where it's a lot more affordable to consistently produce fishing ships. And also, he didn't have any issues building these houses. On the other side, Wham had a good initial boost from the straggler trees, but having to drop that lumber camp just when he wanted to make additional fishing ships was definitely not something that he could do as well as B could. First to Feudal Age is going to be Wham, though. He started mining gold earlier than his counterpart, and he did not invest into an Imperial Officer. This is a big difference between the 2 players. You have an IO on the side of B that's going to boost the Lumberjacks. There is no IO for Wham, but that means that he could start going up to Feudal Age a little quicker. Now, this is a very delicate balance, because Wham is going to have the head start when it comes to getting to Feudal, and when it comes to popping out combat ships. But his eco is also a lot more strained. He doesn't have an IO. When you look at the fishing ships, he's sitting at 8 versus 9. And the IO is also boosting the lumberjacking income here for B. So, as much as he has the head start into Feudal Age and into producing combat ships, I think B could easily catch up. B's gonna have to play a defensive game on the water, but sustainability is favoring B right now. Second dock on the way for B. You have no second docks coming in here for Wham. First, War Junk is about to be popped out. B, up to Feudal Age, yet to start producing a single combat vessel, instead decides to invest into Double Broadaxe. Double Broadaxe is now on the way as well for Wham, but again, you see the difference in the priorities. B popped that upgrade before queuing up combat ships. Wham prioritized the combat vessels before getting the upgrade. First War Junk on the way. B's gonna have to microwave with the fishing boats, make sure that he doesn't lose any of them. There will be some idle time, but you love to see how he's spreading out the fishing ships, making it difficult for Wham to inflict heavy damage. There's a junk in there as well, but you now have 2 docks. Fishing ships also around to heal this 1 War Junk from B, meaning it's much more difficult for Wham to inflict heavy damage on this War Junk. Out on land, B's now playing with 3 IOs already. One of them is actually idle. The buildings are so close to each other that there is basically no option to continuously collect decks. You see, there is a cooldown on this lumber camp. That's why it's not being constantly picked up. On the other side, there is only 1 IO for Wham. He's got a lot of decks to potentially collect. You see 230 gold being floated out there, and it's starting to show on the water as well. You look at Wham, he's sitting at 2 War Junks, 1 junk. B's catching up despite having a disadvantage when it comes to the ship numbers initially. And that's because his economy is now much, much better. First demo is out there for B. There's a junk from Wham, so he could snipe this before it gets close. But obviously, from this point on, you're going to have to pay extreme attention to the water. For both of these players, you look away for a second, a demo connects, and you might lose the game. B is leveraging that tax money so well. You see, all of the buildings are basically out of tax. That's not really the case for Wham. You see, he's still floating a lot of gold when it comes to tax income on the lumber camp. He just now added his 2nd IO. Good news for Wham is that his fishing eco is a lot more protected, and it's not been harassed for a while. Although B's fishing eco to the north is also pretty secure. 2 docks on both sides now. We have pretty much the same fleets. 4 versus 5 is the War Junk count. Escalation is now getting more and more consistent from Wham, and this is definitely something that could swing the water battle. We've talked about the slight eco advantage that B has. You feel like that gap is shrinking. Now that Wham is picking up the tax from the lumber camp, he has a consistent fishing eco. With good micro, he could turn this around. Demo now coming in. Beautiful shots by the junk, sniping the demo ship before it could connect. War Junk numbers favoring Wham here a tiny bit. There is a demo coming in as well. There's a junk from B kept all the way at the back. Demos will try to exchange. Wham is going to pull back his. 2 demos now versus just 1 from B's side. B's junk is healed all the way back here. It's not out there on the front line to snipe the demos. Demos are coming in from 2 directions over here. Wham moving in. War Junks doing their best to snipe them, but there are some connections. Final demo from B will snipe the one coming in from Wham. Still, heavy damage has been done to the fleet of B. There is the counter demo coming in. No junk on the horizon for Wham to snipe it with. And there is retaliation from B. Beautiful hit, sinking 2 War Junks. On the north, a 3rd one goes down as well, and a 4th sniped by the War Junks. In a blink of an eye, B turns around that momentum, but here come the demos once again from Wham. Not many junks available on either side to snipe those. Looking at the ecos, B once again has a slight lead over here, but yeah, one of the things I'm looking at is that he replaced his lumber camp a little sooner, so the lumberjacking efficiency was also on his side, and you see that's kind of the difference that you see over here, about 1,000 per minute as compared to 900. Food eco is a lot better for B, by the way. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. War Junks now favoring him as well. Those last 2 demos that connected, they did so much for B. It looked very good on Wham, or for Wham on the water, but after those demo connections, B got the momentum back. third dock now up for Wham. Not all three of them are consistently producing ships, though. B is just now getting the third dock up. It's all the way to the north. Could give him a bit of a breathing room when it comes to the fishing eco, but it's also going to make it more difficult to reinforce this central battlefield with a dock positioned all the way up there. Once again, little skirmishes begin. We have 4 demos over here. Some of them are hidden in between the fishing ships. It's difficult to distinguish them from fishing ships often, so this is a nice trap set up by Wham. He's going to have to trade demos, though, to save his own fleet. And at the end of the day, all his demos go down but 1, meaning that B retains all the 11 war chunks that he has. He's got 3 demos as compared to Wham's 1. He's getting ready to engage, and space is slowly disappearing here for Wham. He's getting his back pushed against the shore. And once he has nowhere to go, those demos will be even more dangerous for B. On land, no expansion towards the enemy base. There is a market from B to exchange resources, but aside from that, the 2 players are doing identical things. B has a slightly more effective eco, especially when it comes to the wood income. Food also looking a little better for him. Here come the demos. Demos are now available as well for Wham. He's up to 12 war chunks. But you see, he's kind of confined in here. He's starting to run low on fish close to his docks. Whereas on the other side, B is more than secure. Demos now moving in here from B. They do get sniped by the initial junks. A couple of trades go in. Only a single war junk gets sunk by B here. There is the retaliation coming in from Wham. Junks will snipe all his demos, but given the circumstances, this is a decent engagement for Wham. 4 more demos available for B, though, and Wham is running out of space. This is where the demos can really do some damage. A couple of them go down. Wham is going to exchange his last demo to the ones of B, and there is just 1 more remaining for B. Some damage has been done, though, on both sides, actually. But once again, Wham is the one who's losing more ships. He's down to 10 war junks against 13. And many of his war junks are also heavily damaged. You see, B is going to try his best to focus those heavily damaged ones. And now a demo is coming in. That is going to be a lovely connection, sinking 2. And now Wham is in full retreat. Those demos really coming in clutch for B. Remaining war junks are now being sunk. Despite the repairability of the docks here for Wham, it's just not enough anymore. B has that advantage. He has had that eco advantage for a while. It was a tiny thing, but it is a mirror matchup, and we know that in mirror matchups, every single small detail matters. It is a GG that has been called. Wham gets pushed back on the water, and B secures the game. When you look back at this game, you probably look at the tiny discrepancies in the Dark Age and early Feudal build. Wham had the momentum, but it really wasn't something that won him the game in the first few minutes of the Feudal Age. On the other side, B went for a more eco-focused approach. He prioritized the lumberjacking upgrade over popping out a combat ship. He went for an early wheelbarrow. He went for 3 Imperial officers when Wham only had 1. And that helped escalating his eco a little. That helped with long-term sustainability. And that slow eco lead that he built in that window allowed him to slowly grind down Wham. Of course, a lot comes down to water micro as well. We have seen some great demo connections on both sides, but ultimately, B was more effective with his demos compared to Wham.